Welcome to Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.net. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. Thanks so much for joining us this week. So every week as you tune in, I hope that you feel my mission, my passion to change that word sales from something that's just icky, sleazy, and manipulative so that we could really start to shift our paradigm of thinking and come from love, care, and respect. By the way, it's more fun, heck of a lot easier, and people respond in such a better way. Now, to help you on this mindset journey, I have a free gift for you. It's my communication style assessment. You get 2 reports, one showing your natural superpower as it relates to communication and how you're perceived in the world. The flip side, I also give you your lowest style score, which is usually our blind spots. So I shine some light on that for you so that you can understand when you're speaking with people that are in your blind spot or communicate from that perspective, what do you need to do to shift to be able to connect with them on a deeper level? So you get those 2 reports. Go to changingthesalesgame.com/communication style assessment, and I will put that link in the show notes for you. Now, my motivational quote today is by Jeffrey Gitomer, and Jeffrey says, "Quality performance starts with a positive attitude." Now, through the years, I know that I've used different behavioral models or tools. This case, DISC was the one that I was certified on 40 years ago, and now my own communication style assessment, which I just shared in the intro. These valuable tools are just such great resources to help us better understand your specific prospect's buying style, as well as your communication style, so that we're always connecting and approaching, in this case, your prospect in the correct way. So how can we use this type of information to build our skills, to master our prospecting efforts? So at the end, we're able to serve our clients, hopefully in a bigger and better way. And of course, make more sales. Well, today, my amazing guest is Marilyn August. And Marilyn is a profit attracting expert. She helps my kind of gal. She helps business owners and sales professionals close more deals for more money by changing the way they think about money. Now, Marilyn is an author and business development strategist on the science of attracting high-paying clients, providing a complete one-stop spectrum of business development technologies to accelerate your business and sales revenue. So please help me welcome Marilyn to the show. So thanks for being on, Marilyn. I'm so excited about our conversation.
I'm delighted to be here.
I'm back at you. I'm always delighted to do my show, but I'm delighted that you're here with me today.
Well, thank you, Connie. I felt a connection right away.
I know we met recently, everyone listening, and it was just like a love fest right out of the gate. So it's kind of cool when you meet people like that. And then, of course, I think we'll create a great content for everybody listening. So my first question, Marilyn, is tell us a bit about your why and how you came to have this B2B business, owner kind of sales focus in your business.
Okay, well, I will do my best to give you the Cliff Notes.
Cool.
But there's a lot of drama around.
Of course. Yeah.
So I was a corporate trainer, and I was just one of those people who never fit. But my entire life, probably, now they've traced it going back generations. There's been financial problems, difficulties with money. And I decided that I needed to fix myself. There's something, we women tend to do that. There's something wrong with me. So I became a self-help junkie. And I warn people, don't become a self-help junkie, because guess what'll happen? And I developed a 6-week transformational training, which I'm going to be bringing back in the form of an online course on what would be called the psychology of money. And here I was, Connie, I built the field. I had the greatest, this wonderful training, and as the saying goes, and I built the field and they did not come. Nobody knew I had the latest and greatest. So I had to learn about sales. I knew nothing about sales. I thought sales was a 4-letter word, just like everybody else. And I became a student of sales and marketing, both formally and informally, as a consultant for the Small Business Development Center. And I learned that sales makes the world go round.
Yes, sir.
And yes, I was attracting salespeople and business owners to my 6-week program. because they have charge of their own financial destiny. If you're in sales, your income's unlimited. And that's how I evolved. And those are the cliff notes. I left off the trauma. I left off the drama. But basically, the why is to heal, to break through my own revenue roadblocks and help others break through theirs. So this started out about me, helping my own and others. So I'm a big believer in walking my talk.
Yeah. And, you know, it really, we all have crap, right, Marilyn? You and I have lived. We're not, I say, this is when people introduce me, they say, you know, Connie's a seasoned professional. So immediately I get up and I start saying now, yes, because I'm hot and spicy. That word seasons, right, is equating with old. And I'm hot and spicy, baby. You know, I still have a lot.
I think you are spicy.
Thank you. But it's true. I think sometimes we have to start and learn for ourselves to be able to thrive, whatever that means, whatever industry you're in, before we can go and help or teach others. So I do agree with that. And the why was your own almost survival
story.
Right. Your own story. But now you're thinking, oh, like, and then the generosity kicks in. Who can I share that with? Who can I help? Right. I've gone through it. I don't think that I'm an anomaly, right? Other people are probably going through the same stuff, maybe a different story to it. But at the core there, we all have money issues. I have money issues.
Everyone has money issues.
Everybody does. And if you think you don't, you're crazy. So we all have money issues. Now, my next question, and a lot of it comes from our early childhood things you see that you don't necessarily understand, or things that, you know, your mom said money doesn't grow on trees and stuff like that. But all of us have some kind of programming, and there's usually some type of disconnect or issue with money. Next question. Why do you say that every sale, and I love this, by the way, so everybody listening, this is so important, but why do you say that every sale starts between your two ears?
Well, it's kind of like what you said. Attitude is everything. Attitude is 80% of your sale. Yep. So the easiest way to illustrate this is to tell a quick story about a client I had who was on his way to make his latest, greatest, biggest sale in the world. He was actually in the car. I mean, when we called on people in person, he was in the car and he was calling me, and he really, quote unquote, needed the sale. So he was giving off all kinds of needy vibes without knowing it. And it was the biggest sale he would have made that quarter. So he had all this talk going on inside of his head, and everything he knew about his skill set and his behaviors in the past was running around in his head. And basically, I mean, talk about on-demand coaching. I needed to calm him down. And have this be just another sale. So what was going on between his two ears, and because you give off an energetic vibe, and when you need the sale, did you ever notice how when you need the sale, it never happens?
Yes.
Because it's weird, but it's happened to me too many times.
Yes.
So we needed to shift his attitude about, oh, this is just another day. This is another day. This is the kind of sale I make. This is no big deal if I make it or don't take it. So his entire internal self-talk, he was over-preparing, he was over-scripted. So his behavior was being driven by what I call head trash, what was going on in his head, because this was really, really important. So that's, every sale starts between your two, the significance you give it. Is why I say it starts between your, and what you learned as a kid and your last experience with a salesperson.
Yeah.
You know,
and even currently, what, you know, when we go out and you have a horrible representative, no matter what the venue is, you know, oh, they're pushy, oh, and then that's a salesperson, right? That's, I started with that, right, Marilyn? It's
preconceived notion.
Yes. Sales should not be icky, sleazy. I taught a class yesterday for one of my corporate clients, and younger people, 4 peers, and then younger people. And as we were talking, and I said, you know, everybody thinks sales is this icky thing. I said, right now, take the word sale out of your head. And I want you to think about you're coming, and whoever that client is, don't care. there, if they're a business owner, if they're a grandma, if they're a kid fresh out of college. It was a bank that I was working with. And I said, I don't care who the client is in front of you. You want to help them. Yes, yes, yes. So I said, so you have to start thinking about how can I serve them to the best of my ability and take what I know and what offers I have available that's going to help them in their situation. And it should not be, oh, the bank is telling us home equity, so I'm going to push a home equity. The person in front of you is renting. Why are you talking about a home equity, right? So who's in front of me and how can I customize that conversation so I deliver exactly what they need right here and right now, as well as build trust so that they trust you for the future to come back to you later on. And that's how we keep our pipeline full. And it was so cute, Marilyn. They all sat there and went, oh, I like that. And we shifted their feeling, right? What was going on between their ears. I'm going to use your terminology here.
Their ears.
But as soon as you give them an alternative perspective of really how to do it properly, so everybody wins, including the client, not that we're out to get the client, they were like, oh, and then they were all ears and they started talking and the energy in the room changed. It was wonderful, but it starts between our ears. I just love that. And we talk ourselves out of making the sale because of the vibrational energy we're sending off.
Well, you may borrow, sales is not a 4-letter word, as the title for that program you just did. There was a book out by that name, but I think it's out of print now, so it's safe to use that. Exactly. It's our preconceived notions and our perceptions of salesperson. In fact, a lot of companies won't even use the word sales. They have account reps. They have, the very word has a negative connotation. Interestingly, if you were working with a bank, they're talking about money. And what they don't realize is they're stripping a person naked when they talk about money. That's so right. If you want any thoughts on that, we can certainly have that offline. Of course, she's banging to go outside. But the point is that does start between your ears, because you bring your beliefs, your attitudes, your past experiences with money. I could go on and
like the elephant in the room, right? It's the elephant in the room.
It's the one. That's exactly a great way to talk about it.
Yeah. And Marilyn, another question, why do sales and business owners too, right? Because I have both. I have salespeople who work for corporations and I have business owners, right? Yeah. Why do they need to know about their prospects' attitude about money? So we're talking about our own, but what about our prospects' attitude? Like you just said, they were stripped naked.
Yeah. Well, there's actually 3 that you need to know about. As you need to know your own. I mean, awareness is the first step to changing, but the prospect is, for example, I tell the Charlie story where your prospect has just had a fight with their spouse about money. And you don't know that. Of course, they're not telling you they just had a fight about money. And so the prospect's really worried about their marriage. So what do they say to you? They say, oh, we can't afford it. Well, what I had to learn is that your can't afford it isn't necessarily my can't afford it. We're very vague when we talk about the money question. My expensive isn't your expensive. And so we are triggered by our prospects' hidden agenda that we don't know anything about. So if they just had that bad salesperson experience, they're going to project all over you. Yep. Sales is 80% psychology, or maybe even more.
Yeah, it's like the iceberg, right? Maybe 90%.
Yeah. So their past experiences with salespeople, their boss's demands on them, all that's going to play in their personal life, whatever's going on in their personal life, and whatever they were taught about money is going to come into play. Don't trust any salespeople.
Yes.
Never trust used car salespeople.
Yes.
I was just thinking about a new car myself. We do this ourselves.
Yes.
I would not walk into a dealership today without doing my own research.
Of course.
But last time I bought a car, I just stroll in there knowing I'm going to get jammed.
The expectation.
The expectation that your prospect has about, particularly when, and this is not, I don't know if on our topics today, but one of the reasons I discourage discounting and have written extensively about that is because then your prospect's mind is going, what's the real price? You think you're doing a deal and you're shaving your commission and you're doing the prospect a favor. What's going on in the prospect's head is, I wonder what the real price is. If I press this person even more. So your prospect's attitude is very important, but there is a third one, and that's the collective consciousness right now that you have to be aware of when you're going into sales. There's a lot of negativity about rich people, particularly right now. We're in a very interesting time. We all aspire to get rich, and yet there's this, oh, these rich people, they're terrible. They're ripping us off to get rich.
They're crooks.
They're crooks.
Yeah.
That crooks has been around for a long time. That's a perfect way to say it. They're crooks. So the only way I can get rich is to be a crook, is what happens. And what I've learned is it's not the money that makes the person, it's the person that makes the money. So I had to come up with a term to describe this, and I use richly fulfilled. There are a lot of good people can do a lot of good with money. Do more good with money than you can if you don't have money. It's the old airline talk about put on your own financial mask first.
That's right.
And then help others. So that's a long way of answering your question.
Yeah, and I have two comments. That was just well said. I remember many, many years ago when I started as a financial advisor, I got my license and I worked in insurance, and then I transitioned over to banking. So I grew up in financial sales. Really, that's kind of my world, MBA in finance, all of that. And I remember I walked in, I was probably maybe 25 or 26 at the time, Marilyn, and it was a Saturday appointment at the bank. And I went in the manager's office, and the gentleman came in. No joke. He looked at me and he said, "You're young and you're a girl. I don't know that I could work with you." So now I was in my 20s. I was filled with vim and vigor back then. Now I'm just too tired. But I thought to myself, do I punch him in the face? I didn't. I did not get violent. So I calmly said to him, you're here. I'm here. Why don't I start to explore? Give me 10 minutes. If in 10 minutes you don't feel that I can add value to your financial situation and our conversation, I have a colleague and a peer that I certainly on Monday can send in. There was no email back then, but I can certainly send an introduction. I can have him call you. But we're here. What do you think? I'll get some preliminary information and I can share it. He goes, well, all right. Attitude though. All right. So we sit down. So now I'm thinking 10 minutes, you have to stop in 10 minutes because you told him 10 minutes. Right. So a kid, I was a nervous wreck. But I went through, and it was funny because I was going for my MBA at night. I would never tell anybody that I got an MBA or was going for my MBA. To me, it was an unimportant thing. It was something I was doing for me. He needed to know I was going for an MBA. So I told him, I go to school at night for my MBA and I love what I'm learning and I'm able to help my clients more. But anyway, get into the meat of it. 10 minutes goes by. And I said to him, our 10 minutes are up. I want to honor my agreement with you. If you'd like me to introduce you to my colleague, I'm happy to do that. No hard feelings. And I'm happy to share the information. He tilted his head and he smiled and he said, you're a smart cookie. He goes, let's keep going. He goes, the jury's still out on you. It's like, okay, sure. So we continue. So ironically, of course, I made the sale because I did good by him. I honored him and I helped him with whatever his situation was at the time. He became my best referring person. That shared his family and friends with me. And he said to me later on, he said, you didn't get flustered. He said, you were so mature in how you handled it. And you're freaking pretty smart about, financial stuff. And he says, I love that you're in my life. And he started sharing, he made actually for me, Marilyn, this wooden thing that was a trivet. But then if you opened it up, it could hold bananas and became like a little fruit basket. I'm telling you, this guy loved me. So it starts off as this negative perspective he had, and I just proved him wrong in a very, very gracious way. And I had the chops of, I knew my how to help him right financially. So sometimes people have a perceived idea of who you are before they even have a conversation with you.
So Connie, I want to also point out some other things you did. And this is really, really important in sales. You respected your agreement, your time agreement.
Of
One
course.
of the very, very basics of sales that you teach and you live and I live is if you say
Absolutely.
10 minutes, it's 10 minutes. And what that does is that shows your prospect that you respect them. You completely broke through the stereotypical girly, you're a girl stereotype that he had. So that's a great example. And you said to him, I'm going to refer you to somebody else. So you didn't go in with your ego. And I think that's why your sale started between your two ears. You know, I hate the expression lost sale because there's no sale to lose if you haven't made the sale. There's nothing
100%.
to lose.
That's
So there's
right.
no sale you can lose because you haven't made it. So you had nothing to lose and you had everything to gain, but you honored and respected his attitude about female salespeople and finances. So when I say a sale begins between your two ears, your job as a salesperson, my job as a salesperson, is to find out what's going on between the prospect's two ears, both from an attitude and a belief, because they come in with preconceived beliefs. But start setting up a time agreement. And if your listeners are, it's the most respectful thing you can do, particularly in our instant gratification society.
Yeah,
It's so easy to do. How much time do you have? Okay. I, as the salesperson, become the timekeeper.
absolutely.
And that's what you did. I mean, what you just told in that story is that's a whole class in and of itself.
For real. Yeah.
Because you didn't even get to the objection part. You got to the, I'm not doing business with you because you're a girl. I was going to tell you about my boss who said his wife would never work outside the home, but it's not appropriate. But we just hear this stuff day in and day out. And that's why I say, knowing what's going on in the collective right now, I don't know what your experience, but psychologically, I think there's a lot of residue left from COVID.
Yeah.
And the decision-making process for people has changed.
Yeah.
Because look at all the uncertainty we've lived with for the last 2-3 years
Absolutely.
or more.
Yeah.
But that's changed people's attitudes and beliefs and behaviors. You know, can I make a long-term deal with you? Will I be around to do it? So we're just scratching the surface of this iceberg.
Yeah, it's really true. Next question. You mentioned it's a little bit of success, right? So how in your experience, right, how come some people have this fear of success, which again is what's going on between the ear, but why do you see that happening or feel that feeling come about?
I distilled it down to three components. And if anybody wants the article I wrote about it, they can have it. But I think in no particular order, and it's very deeply buried in our subconscious, very, very deeply buried. But one of the reasons is that not everybody gets on your bandwagon. I've lost friends. We expect everybody to be in our cheerleader. You know, we expect everybody to root for our success. Well, there's some people that just can't go along with it. It disrupts their image of you. And another reason is, and I probably have more than three, but is most people live their life as a problem to solve. What if you don't have a problem to solve? Think about people's normal day-to-day conversations. What are they talking about? They're talking about problems. They're not talking about their wins. One of the things I encourage people to do is to talk about their wins. There are several coaches, several time management people who say, at the end of the day, sit down and think about what you got done, not what you didn't get done. And that will change your perspective on if you're making progress. And then last one that I'll talk about is really our own self-image. If, like me, you were the black sheep of the family and you weren't as smart as your brother or as pretty as your sister, we have to change our self-image of who we are. And some people cannot, but there's power balances in relationships. I don't have to talk about it so much, but I used to talk about if the wife starts making more money than the husband. That was a big issue in a lot of relationships. So there's a power thing, but mainly it's our own self-image. If we don't see ourselves as successful, or if we're used to only talking about problems, or if we have lots of drama in our lives and all of a sudden the drama starts going away. So almost in a drama addiction, almost a problem addiction, that's why I emphasize having a vision statement, having a big picture, having okay, this is so outrageous that could never happen to me, but my screensaver is my vision statement. It's and images, so that when I wake up in the morning and I start working in the morning, this is what I see. I see what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Because I have certainly dived into where I've been.
Yeah, the subliminal.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I am you joked with me before we started, I am my worst critic. We are all our worst critics.
Yeah.
I can tell you everything I've ever done wrong.
Yeah. We have a tally of it, right? And we have it in detail and
That's
bolded
right.
print, right? In
That's
our brain.
right. You're absolutely right.
It's funny.
The critic is the critic. My coach even used to tell me I have a vicious critic.
Yeah. We're vicious with ourselves. We judge, right? We're very good at judging ourselves, others, and situations, for sure.
Right.
It was funny. I remember, God, this is years ago. I went to a weekend retreat at a friend who I call her Karen, the angel lady, but she sees angels and she does readings, etc. So I had done several readings with her, and she did this retreat, and I said, "Oh, I'll come. It's to support her, certainly, but I like learning about myself and different things." Yes. So as we were going through all these little things for us to work on, and at one point she was going around the room and saying what our angels were telling her, messages to give us. And she skipped me, Marilyn. And I thought, oh, maybe my angels aren't here. And maybe
I don't have one. Everybody else has one.
They don't have anything to say to me. So I was like, all right, whatever. Right. She went on, and then she comes back to me last. And then I looked at her and I go, uh-oh. How bad is it?
Of course, that's where you would go. That's where you
and she looked at me. It was so cute. She put her hands on her hip and she goes, "You're afraid of success?" And it took me back.
Oh my God.
Can you believe it? Swear to God, this was several years ago. And I looked at her and I went, I am. She goes, "Why?" Like, she's like the nicest person. You're smart. You're giving.
Well,
you
what
love
was the
people.
answer?
She was like, So she goes, "What the hell's wrong with you, woman?" And I said, "I'm afraid people are going to think I'm a crook." And so we delved into that a little bit that day.
You come from financial background.
No, it was my parents. I grew up in Newark, and I remember we were coming home from the shore, and the mob, the mafia, were very big in Newark back in the 60s. And we were coming home. I was a little girl. I was probably 5 years old. And as we were driving by, there's these big, beautiful homes. And I say to my parents, "Oh, who lives in those homes?" In my mind, it was a princess, right? Disney. So I'm like, "Who lives in those homes?" And they said, "Me," like at the same time, "Bad people. They have guns. They kill people. They're crooks. They're crooks that live there."
Oh, that got planted. That got implanted.
And I finally figured that out. It's probably within the past decade. And when I said it out loud to her, she said, "It's a 5-year-old and you're holding on to that." And my fear was people that knew me would think just what you said before, Marilyn. How did she get to be successful? She must have stepped on people or ripped people off. That was my own rhetoric, which here's the reality. People that know me know that I come from a place of love always in everything I do. So that's the furthest from the truth. Yet that was instilled in me as a little girl. So subconsciously I was feeling people are going to think I'm a crook too. So it's very interesting. It goes back to what's behind our ears, but also those experiences that we don't even know how to articulate. So fear of success is a real thing. And we all have a little element of that, I think, right?
I think we all have an element. I think it's a huge subject. Yeah. And I, obviously I wasn't supposed to be successful either, because I committed the sin of leaving my secure job.
That's right.
To start my own business,
for
which to this day, the little family I have left, and I don't call them family, has never forgiven me. So there was only one way to make money in my family, particularly if you're a woman, and that was to marry a rich man.
Yeah. See that
So-
again, it's what we're programmed.
And not only that, I want to take it, Connie, and this is something I've explored this generationally. When I say it was implanted in you, remember, we either had parents or grandparents that grew up in the 1930s.
Yeah.
And that was the Depression. And that is, so some people say this goes back 10 generations.
Yes.
It goes back at least 1 or 2 generations, because they taught their kids, and then your parents made that conclusion. My parents said you had to marry a rich man, which I failed to do. And so obviously, oh, and my mother's, this is one that it took me years to uncover. I mean, it can be just this innocent that your mother could say something. My
Sure.
mother always used to say, and I'll never forget this, you gotta have a little luck.
Mm.
And I always thought the luck fairy passed me by,
Sure.
you know, but that was her mantra. You gotta have luck. It took me years to figure out that what she meant by that. And it was, she had a long goodbye. So we had a lot of time to talk when she was older and I was older. And what she meant by that was you had to be lucky to find a rich man.
Crazy.
It was crazy, but that got implanted that you didn't have a good fairy. I didn't have a luck angel.
Yeah.
So I have to look today to this even now. Oh, that was a lucky parking space. It was so lucky I met Connie. So it's a consciousness of shifting what goes on between your ears, which is, I believe, the journey in this lifetime, at least the one I'm on.
Yeah, I agree. We're out of time, but you know, well said. Yeah, I know it goes so fast. Please, I know, but yeah, well said. And it's funny because you know, and I know my mom and dad, right? They did it from a place of protection and love. And, you know, my mom was born in 29, so lived, you know, her early years were through the Depression, sure. And being in finance all those years, when I would meet with elders who were my mother's elder to me, my mom and dad's age, I always understood that they had that poverty mentality because they did live through the Depression. And when they said I was starving as a little kid, like my mother, you know, they had to water down milk so that everybody could, for instance, have milk at dinner. So, you know, they knew what starvation was and feeling hungry. My kids say it, and I think, oh my God, you just ate an hour ago. What are you talking about? Right. So I agree with you that programming, innocently, they did it through love or for love.
Yes, it was very innocent.
It's innocent. So yeah, and I'm glad that you had the time with your mom. We're out of time, but everybody, I want you to go to Marilyn's website. It's obviously www and then profitgpsclub.com. And if you have a question specifically for Marilyn, you can email her, marilyn@profitgps.com. I will put those links in the show notes so that you can find her easy peasy. Marilyn, thank you again for being on. And I'm loving that it all starts between the ears for us and for our prospects. So I like that. That's my big takeaway from today. So thank you so much for being on and sharing your zone of genius. A real pleasure.
Thank you.
And my pleasure. And I hope that you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together that no matter where you are in your career, I truly hope that my guests and I and our stories and ideas and tips and strategies and what we're doing in business, I hope it helps you move the needle in your career and or your business, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. And I hope that the information we provide gives you ideas, strategies, tips, but action, right? You heard it. You go, oh, that felt kind of good. I kind of like that. Please apply it, try it out, be curious, practice it, experiment with it. And that's when the magic starts happening in your life. I want to thank Marilyn again. I want to thank you again for joining me on Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.net with me, your host, Connie Whitman. As always, thank you for being on this journey of change and sales with me. And I will see you all next week. I hope this show inspired you to change something in your life. Thanks so much, everybody.